Hello, my man. I have a new book for you tonight, and hope you're having fun. Enjoy. This one's called The Curiosities. So, curious is like to be interested or want to find out about. So, here we go. What's so interesting about curiosities? The curiosities came at dawn. By the time Myro woke, they had already chosen their nesting place. At first, the curiosities were quiet. They blended in. At first, Myro didn't even notice, then perched on his shoulder and nuzzled in his hair. At first, Myro thought the tingle he felt was just the warmth of the sun or the murmuring of the wind. But slowly, Myro began to see things differently. He began to feel things differently and do things differently too. The curiosities would point and chirp and pull him towards places hidden away from everyday eyes. They showed him how to swim with the stars and tickle the songs from the earth. They showed him how to whisper up waves and weave clouds to make stories for the wind. Myro had never noticed all the oddments and snippets before, all those wonders and possibilities waiting in the shadows where no one else looked. And when the night whispered its song across the earth, and Myro could feel the curiosities prickling inside him, then he would play his fiddle. The curiosities would cheer and clap, the music becoming more wild and more wonderful than he could ever imagine. Then Myro and his curiosities would dance and play deep into the night. Before long, others began to notice the curiosities too. When Myra guided a weathered elder to her home, her hand soft on his arm, and her world wrinkled stories gentle in his ear, he smiled as she paddled the head of the curiosity, perched and listening to her words. But sometimes the curiosities were so loud and strange that people couldn't help but stare. The curiosities trilled and gurgled, pulling at Myro's arm and flapping at his legs, whispering in his ears so that all about him disappeared into a buzz of cold noise and confusion. Sometimes the curiosities were so bright and brilliant that everyone turned away. Then, no matter what he did, Myro was invisible. One evening, as the sun tiptoed across the very tops of the trees, something itched at the curiosities. A wild, untamed storm, furious and strong. The curiosities gathered, cheering and clapping and stomping and yowling. Myro demanded quiet. He pleaded for peace, but the curiosities would not be tamed. They shrieked and roared. They washed over Myro, loud and strange and brilliant, bright and brilliant, and prickly and tingly, flapping and hissing and screeching and hurtling. The darkness wrapped itself around him, deep, black and wet. Myra howled. He felt the ground vanish beneath him and the sound of the earth fade until all around him was deep silence. Then he heard it, a whisper of a voice, just a snippet of a world-wrinkled story, dancing on the wind. Myro uncurled. He opened his eyes. And there it was, a single thread of knowing, thin and fragile, and almost invisible to his fingers. But there, gently and carefully, Myro pulled. And when the elder appeared, the ground grew again under Myro's feet, and the sound of the earth broke through the hissed whispers of the curiosities. The elder helped Myro to his feet, brushing away the darkness. Myro could still feel the curiosities itching, but he could feel the thread too, getting stronger and harder to break. Myro rubbed his eyes and blinked in the light. He hadn't realized how many threads had already grown. Myro soon found out that the more threads that grew, the easier it was to shed the darkness when it came. And even though strangers still sometimes stared or turned away, Myro had the knowing of many others. And it seemed to Myro that the curiosities had chosen lots of other people too, in lots of different ways. From time to time, when the breeze blew just so across the mountains and the hint of rain cartwheeled on the air, the curiosities would leave. Their wings would spread, and they would soar high on the wind. They always came back, but Myro didn't mind. Now, Myro could swim with the stars and tickle the songs from the earth. He could whisper up waves and weave clouds to make stories for the wind. Now Myro could see all the oddments and snippets, all those hidden wonders and possibles waiting in the shadows. Can you? Well, that was a curious book. I'm not going to pretend to know all that one, but hope you liked it. Bit different, but it's good to read different. You never know what's going to be good or what isn't. Anyway, see you tomorrow, little man. Love you. Have a good night, mate.